Everybody like and subscribe, praise the bell icon. Story number 1.
It was a cold, dreary night when I decided to browse Amazon for something to kill the time. As someone who had spent countless hours getting lost in the endless scroll of products, I knew that I'd find a good deal on something I didn't need. But this time, something felt different. I had just purchased a vintage-looking lamp and was waiting for it to arrive. The product had an odd description. Bring the past into the present, perfect for those with an eye for the unusual. I thought nothing of it. The price was right and the reviews were good, so I clicked buy now. A few days later, the package arrived, wrapped in brown paper with the unmistakable smile of Amazon printed on the tape. The box was heavy, far heavier than the lamp I imagined. I cut through the tape, almost feeling an unsettling weight in my chest as the cardboard flaps opened. There, inside, was the lamp. It looked fine, but something about it sent a strange shiver down my spine. The design was intricate, almost too perfect, but the oddest part wasn't its look. It was the faint smell that lingered, like mildew mixed with a metallic scent, faint but pungent enough to make me uneasy. I plugged it in, wanting to see how it looked. The light flickered for a second before it settled into a soft, dim glow. As I stared at it, something strange began to happen. The light seemed to pulse, as though it was alive. The shadows in the room shifted, stretched, and bent in unnatural ways. I laughed it off, chalking it up to a long day and a tired mind. But then it got worse. At 3 a.m., I woke up to a faint whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but the voice was there, growing louder. It sounded almost as if it were coming from the lamp. I turned over to check, but the room was silent. The lamp's glow was still steady, as if it had never moved. I dismissed it as a dream, rolled over, and fell back asleep. The next night, I woke up again, this time not to whispers, but to a strange sound, a scraping noise, like nails on wood. I bolted upright, staring at the lamp. The shadows were longer now, almost stretching across the entire room. My heart began to race. I didn't want to look away, but I couldn't help myself. The scraping grew louder, and the lamp flickered violently, as if it were trying to communicate. The noise stopped abruptly, replaced by a single, cold voice. "Get out!" The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. My entire body was frozen. I didn't know whether I should scream or run. I slowly moved to unplug the lamp, but when I touched the cord, it shocked me. Not with electricity, but with an intense cold, like ice running through my veins. I yanked my hand away, heart pounding in my chest, as the lamp continued to pulse brighter and brighter until the room was bathed in an unnatural light. I could hear the voice again, clearer this time, almost like a breathy whisper at the edge of my ear. "Leave now." I ran to the door, my breath shallow, but as I reached for the handle, the room seemed to close in around me. The walls pressed in and the shadows twisted like fingers, wrapping around my legs, pulling me back toward the lamp. I fought, clawing at the door, but I couldn't break free. It was like something invisible had gripped me, keeping me there. The lamp flickered again, and the last thing I saw was a figure, a shadow looming in the light. It wasn't human. It was far worse. The next morning, the lamp was gone. The box, the wrapping, even the faint smell of mildew, all gone, as though nothing had ever happened. I never ordered another item from Amazon again. But every now and then, late at night, I still hear that scraping sound, the voice calling my name. And sometimes, if I close my eyes, I can almost see that figure, waiting for me, just beyond the light.
Story number 2.
There's a place I used to visit frequently, a small, run-down thrift store in my neighborhood. It wasn't the kind of store that attracted many people, but it was always there, tucked between two newer, more glamorous buildings. Its faded sign read, "The Curious Goods," and the window was cluttered with old, dusty antiques, cobwebbed furniture, tarnished mirrors, and strange trinkets that seemed to hold stories of their own. One evening, after a particularly long day, I wandered in, mostly out of boredom. I remember the strange, musty smell that immediately hit me when I entered, like old books and forgotten memories. The old man behind the counter barely looked up, his face wrinkled like leather, his eyes dull but piercing. The silence inside felt thick, almost suffocating, as if the air itself was weighed down with the history of the items in the store. I was about to leave when I spotted something peculiar, a small, ornate box on a shelf near the back. It looked antique, but unlike anything I had ever seen. The craftsmanship was exquisite, with intricate engravings all over it, and there was something about the way it shimmered in the dim light that drew me in. I couldn't resist. I picked it up, feeling a strange chill run through me as I held it. The old man looked up then, his eyes narrowing. "That one's not for sale," he muttered, his voice like gravel. But I didn't listen. I opened the box. Inside was a small, folded piece of paper, yellowed with age, and a thin silver necklace with a pendant shaped like an eye. Before I could even read the note, the store door slammed shut and the lights flickered. The old man's face twisted into a grotesque grimace as he lunged forward, his hands reaching for the box. "Put it back," he screamed. His voice was raw, panicked. "You don't understand. It's cursed." But it was too late. The moment the box touched my skin, everything changed. The room around me seemed to warp, the air growing thicker, the light dimmer. The shelves shook and the floor creaked beneath me. A low hum filled the air, reverberating through my bones. I tried to back away, but my legs wouldn't move. That's when I saw it. Something in the shadows, lurking just beyond the corner of my vision. At first, it looked like a person, but then it shifted, elongating into something else. Something darker, something that didn't belong in the world of the living. The figure's eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and its face twisted into a grotesque smile. It whispered my name, its voice scraping like nails on a chalkboard. "Come closer." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. The old man was gone, vanished, as if he had never existed. The store around me began to fade, replaced by an endless black void. I could still feel the box in my hands, its cold metal pressing against my palm. The figure moved closer, its form melting in and out of the shadows like smoke. "Leave, before it's too late." I don't know how I escaped. One moment, I was frozen, unable to move, and the next, I was standing outside the store, the door gently swinging in the wind. The lights inside flickered one last time before they went out completely. I never went back to that store again. But sometimes, late at night, I hear the hum of that strange energy like a buzzing in my ear, and every now and then I catch a glimpse of something in the corner of my vision. A shadow, a figure, waiting. I never opened the box, but I have it still, and sometimes I wonder, should I?
Story number 3.
It was supposed to be a simple road trip, a weekend getaway to unwind after a stressful month of work. My friends and I had rented a cabin in the woods, secluded, peaceful, and far from any distractions. The drive was long, but we didn't mind. The thought of a cozy night by the fire, playing board games, and laughing until the stress melted away was enough to keep our spirits high. The first evening passed without incident. We unpacked, made dinner, and settled in for a quiet night. But as soon as the sun disappeared behind the trees, an unsettling silence took over the cabin. No animals, no wind rustling the branches, nothing. It was as if the forest had been swallowed by something far darker. Around midnight, we decided to explore the area a bit. The moon was full, casting an eerie light over the dense trees. We grabbed our flashlights and walked into the woods, following a narrow trail that we hoped would lead us to a nearby creek. The air was damp, and the forest seemed unnaturally still. No sounds of rustling leaves, no chirping insects, just an oppressive quiet. After about half an hour, we stumbled upon a small clearing where an old weathered shack stood. It was barely visible, hidden behind overgrown vines and moss. It looked abandoned, but something about it felt wrong. My friends and I exchanged uneasy glances, but curiosity got the better of us, and we decided to investigate. The door creaked as we pushed it open, revealing a dark, musty interior. Cobwebs draped over broken furniture, and the air smelled stale, like old paper and rot. The floorboards groaned beneath our feet as we moved through the room. There were old pictures on the walls, faded and yellowed with time, showing people I didn't recognize. But what made my stomach churn wasn't the pictures. It was the strange symbols scrawled across the walls in what looked like black paint or ink. I felt a chill crawl down my spine as I moved closer to one of the symbols, my flashlight flickering. That's when I heard it, a low, guttural sound from behind me. I turned, but there was nothing there. My friends had heard it too, and their faces paled as they looked around, nervously shifting from foot to foot. We tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. It was as if something on the other side was holding it shut. Panic set in and we began to pound on the door, shouting for help, but no one came. The air grew colder, and the shadows in the corners of the shack seemed to grow longer, stretching toward us. That's when I saw it. At the far end of the shack, there was a figure. It was standing in the shadows, just out of the reach of our flashlights. It was tall, unnaturally tall, its limbs long and contorted. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, and its face, if you could even call it that, was a featureless void, like a black hole that absorbed the light around it. It didn't move, just stood there, watching us. We froze. The only sound was our own heavy breathing, but that's when we heard something else, scratching. Slow, deliberate scratching from behind us, as if something or someone was crawling across the floor. I turned just in time to see more figures emerging from the darkness, their limbs twisted and bent in unnatural angles, their eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. I don't know how long we were trapped in that shack. It felt like hours, though it could have been minutes. Eventually, the door gave way, and we ran, not looking back. We didn't stop until we reached the cabin, panting and terrified, not daring to speak a word. The next morning, we packed our things and left the cabin early. We couldn't explain what happened or what we had seen, but none of us were willing to stay another night. When we finally returned home, I tried to forget about the incident, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed us back. At night, when I was alone, I would hear scratching noises from the corners of my room, soft at first, but growing louder with each passing night. I've never been able to find the source, but I know this much. Whatever we encountered in that shack, whatever we disturbed, it's still out there. And sometimes, when the silence is too thick, when the shadows grow too long, I can almost hear it moving closer,